All right, game one preview for the 24-25 Rutgers men's basketball team is here, hosting Wagner Wednesday, November 6th, 6 p.m. tip-off, early tip-off, airing live on BTN. And want to just remind everyone I do game previews throughout the season for Rutgers men's basketball, and of course game recaps as well, rapid reactions soon after the final result. Did want to touch on real quick my season projections, record prediction that I put out on Monday. A couple things I wanted to clarify. First, I goofed on when I talked about free throw percentage that Rutgers hasn't shot over 70% in decades. It was actually 75% I was referring to, because I said I think they could shoot 73-ish this season. I actually, if you follow me on Twitter, my tagged tweet at the top was a mention article I wrote a couple years ago for the Scarlet Faithful when Rutgers was trending close to 75% for the season. I got a mention during the telecast when they came back and beat Northwestern. So that's what I was referring to. I mistakenly said 70%. It happens. I was in a 40-minute ramble and I twisted my tongue there. So I wanted to clarify that. Also, I did not mention Bryce Dortch or Dylan Grant in my projections, and I simply didn't do that because I don't think they're going to be part of this rotation this year. There's obviously a chance injuries could change that. I do think both of them have a lot of upside for the future. I've talked about them all offseason as well when talking about the team, but did want to clarify, I should have at least mentioned that in the preview that, I don't expect them. They're going to be 11-12 on this team, but that's to be expected, I think, with all the veterans and talent you have. But I think long-term, they're both going to be contributors to this team. I really like Dylan Grant's ability to defend, rebound. He can hit some threes. Dortch is just so bouncy and has real natural touch around the rim that I saw this offseason. So you never say never, but I think in terms of tangible minutes, I don't foresee that at the moment. Just in terms of this team, obviously getting off to a good start is essential to this season. And hosting Wagner, the NEC co-favorite in the preseason. They won the NEC tournament last year. They have 9 returning players from that team. 4 players projected to start were key contributors last year. They beat Howard in the round of 68 last year before ultimately falling. And this is a well-coached team. Donald Copeland, former Seton Hall player. And this is a good first test. This is a team, obviously, Rutgers should beat handily. Ken Palm has them at 266. Rutgers currently at 64. Favored to win by 17 per Ken Palm. 74-57 is the projection. Overall, Wagner, they don't have a ton of size. They only have 2 starters over 6'4". They have a transfer from Minnesota, Moorhead, in Jakir Sanchez, 6'4" guard. They have Taj Kelton, senior, 6'7" forward, averaged 6 and 4 last season. But Sanchez averaged over 12 points a game, 4 rebounds a game from Minnesota Moorhead. They have Javier Esquera, the 6'1" guard. He really runs the offense. He averaged over 4 assists and 4 rebounds last year. They have Zaire Williams back, 6'4" guard, close to 10 points a game last year. 2 rebounds and an assist. And then Keontae Lewis, 6'9" forward, 7 points, 5 rebounds last season. And this is a team that, people expect to compete for the NEC title once again. So low major teams that have an identity established, that have veterans returning, this is a team that's going to come to the rack. They're not going to be intimidated. So Rutgers is going to have to play well from the opening jump. This is obviously an exciting season opener for Rutgers fans. The rack should be rocking for game 1. College basketball opened on Monday, and you saw a lot of close results in the Big East. Teams like Seton Hall, DePaul, Providence, all with single-digit wins. There was another Big East team. Villanova was battling Lafayette, ultimately pulled away late. So nothing is a given. Texas A&M, who's ranked, they ended up losing. I forget the opponent, but they lost a bad opening night loss. They'll be in Feast Week that Rutgers could potentially play them. So obviously taking care of business. But I think for this team, I talked about it in the season preview, momentum is so important for this team this year. And that really starts in game 1 in terms of the first 5-10 minutes, establishing control, playing under control, playing together. Dylan Harper with an interview on BTN on Tuesday talking about the importance of playing for each other, for one another. That's a message that Steve Peichel is really imparting on this team. And that's what we want to see on the court on Wednesday. Obviously, talent-wise, I mean, there's no answer for Dylan or Ace on the Wagner sideline. And I think the important thing in this first 2 weeks when they have all these bye games against low to mid majors is you want to see Rutgers play the way they want to play against high major competition. You don't want to see them establish bad habits. You don't want to see them force things. You don't want to see them just play Dylan and Ace ball. Everyone's kind of got to sink their teeth into their roles, establish some rhythm, get comfortable as they're going to play in key games this year. They need to play that way now, even though they could obviously just overwhelm Wagner with the talent they have. I think in terms of how they come out defensively, how much they pressure, how much fundamentally they sit together, learning their defensive rotations. I can't imagine they're going to press a whole lot in this game, but I want to see how much half-court pressure trapping they apply because just from a size advantage, I mean, they're so much bigger than Wagner. They can really force a lot of mistakes here, a lot of turnovers, and they're going to be able to, I think, get a lot of easy baskets in transition. Can they finish at the rim against an inferior opponent, against a team they're much bigger than? That's a sign to watch for. Can they hit their free throws? Can they make open threes? Can they run the offense and move well without the ball? Can they get good looks off of screening action? Those are all things you want to see in this game. Doesn't necessarily impact the result per se, but I will also say from a KenPom perspective, from a net rankings perspective, it's never too early to think about it. Winning by a wide margin is really important. If you win by single digits against an opponent like this, it does hurt your metrics. Not that metrics are the most important thing, but again, it's all about momentum for this team. I think it's just so key to stay off the bubble all year long. I think from a psyche standpoint, mentality standpoint, it just will behoove this team with, their two best players being true freshmen to not have to deal with that uphill battle throughout the year. And it starts with taking care of business against a team that they absolutely should. Again, I love that Steve Peichel is scheduling teams that won their league or are expected to win their leagues. Those are the type of low major teams you want to play. The next 5 opponents, they're all against opponents that are ranked in the 200s and KenPom. That is a huge step from years past when they would have been mostly in the 300s. So you're getting you're not playing high competition, right? But you're playing competent, well-coached, low major teams that are going to be tough. And like I said, Wagner has an established identity. They're going to come in and play with purpose. They're going to play together. Rutgers can overwhelm them physically. I think defensively, that's where you want to see. Can Rutgers get their offense out of their defense? Can they be disciplined on the defensive end? Can they dominate the boards against a team they absolutely should? Because if they can't dominate the boards against Wagner, it's just going to raise that red flag even more. That kind of began in the offseason with not acquiring a 5, and then also the performance against St. John's. But I think also just Rutgers finishing around the rim, just playing good fundamental basketball, playing together, playing smart, and getting off to a good start. They should just jump on Wagner from the get-go. Fans aren't going to be we signed up for a roller coaster, right? But let's not have a roller coaster in game 1. Steve Politi mentioned in the Stonehill game on the Rutgers rant this week that still is kind of in his blood. And we'll never forget that game. But listen, it's exciting as anything, just in terms of I can't wait to see the rotations, how experimental will Steve Peichel get. I expect him to play the full 12 tomorrow, in referring to Grant and Dortch. And you hope that in the second half, they're far enough ahead that the 7 to 12 guys, at the end of the rotation can get a lot of run in this game. And everyone needs reps at this point. Everyone on this team needs reps. Tyson Acuff needs reps to work off the rust. So, be interesting to see just in terms of the lineups that you see out there. I do expect Jermichael Davis and Igbole to start along with J. Will, Harper, and Bailey. We'll see. But I think that in terms of just the chemistry that they build on the court in this game is something they're going to have to be able to build off of in these next 2 weeks, because once you get to Feast Week, they got to be ready to go. These are certainly opportunities for this team to establish a rhythm together. And listen, Ace, he can hit any shot on the floor, but this is a game he should look to get to the rim as much as possible. Don't settle for the 18-footer against an opponent that you could just dominate. Yes, he's going to have to hit some jump shots against tough opponents. I'm all for him shooting threes, but contorting and spinning in the air and a fadeaway 18-footer against an opponent that you can physically overwhelm probably isn't the best percentage look that you're going to be able to get on the court. And I think we want to see Dylan Harper as a facilitator in this game. Defensively, how much can they create turnovers? JaMychal Davis, Jordan Durkak, we know they're ball hawks in terms of ball pressure. Jeremiah Williams can do that as well. Can they stay out of foul trouble? Can they defend without fouling? Can they not be over anxious on defense? Can they be disciplined in offense? Can they shoot? One thing, in that 22-0 run that I talked about that episode was playing modern basketball, shooting threes and shooting at the rim, not shooting a ton of mid-range shots. In this type of game, you should be able to get to the rim pretty much at will. So I think there's so many things to watch for in this game other than Rutgers just taking care of business and getting a double-digit victory. You want to see the production from the five. You want to see how this offense functions in terms of Dylan, just how the bench reacts and where the scoring is going to come from. How do they shoot as a team from behind the arc? Can they shoot 81% again from the foul line like they did against St. John's on 22 attempts? That would be super encouraging. And then also just being able to take Wagner out of their offense, out of what they like to do in terms of their stuff. They're a team that, you don't want to give hope to. You don't want to allow them to stick in the game. Again, Rutgers doesn't have to blow the doors off right from the start, but you want them to have establish their dominance by the time it's at the end of the first half. And I think there's no reason they shouldn't. And again, I'm really excited to see what these different rotations are going to look like. I think the crowd is going to be electric. Rutgers getting used to playing in that type of crowd, staying within themselves, playing together. These are all things we want to see in game one. It's just one game. There's going to be overreactions to everything. There were a ton of overreactions to the St. John's exhibition. But in terms of this game, just how efficient can you be against a team that you should overpower? That is going to be certainly an intriguing aspect for me. And, you have this game and then you don't play again until the following Monday. So in terms of minutes, in terms of getting people runs, getting, legs underneath them, how are they? I felt like they ran out of gas a little bit against St. John's. So getting game conditioning, you can't replicate that in practice, although this team is in very, very good shape. You need to get your game legs under you now in terms of shooting towards the end of games. So a lot to watch for in this game. Rutgers, Wagner, Wednesday, November 6th, 6 p.m. tip-off, airing live on BTN. They'll be on WFAN Radio, Jerry Recco, Austin Johnson, WRSU will have the radio call as well. And I'll be back after the game with my rapid reaction. And I can't believe the season's starting. So happy that it is. I know we've talked about it for a very long time. If you, again, I had a ton of preview coverage just in the last week. 22-0 run breakdown. I had a Big Ten preview with Joe Jackson. I had PJ Hayes on to talk to him. I had Jerry Carino for our annual preseason preview. And then I did a whole projections season record prediction pod on Monday. Check all those out if you have time and you're interested, if you haven't already. And if you have, thank you so much. I can't wait to go through this journey with you this year. And it starts on Wednesday at the Rack, Rutgers Wagner. Here we go. Thanks so much for listening and watching once again.